Welcome back to Martinis, Girls and Guns. I'm Sean, and on my wrist today we've got a Casio DB61 data bank from 1992. That is the 1900s for all you people that were born after 2000. So if it's not your first time on the channel, you're looking going, rah, that is not a Liverpool top. Yes, I know. That's because today we'll be talking about this. The S1MII. It's a camera that everyone's been going on about right here. And while based on, or from what I said in my last video, you lot will know that I'm not necessarily always a hybrid guy, right? I've been a hybrid shooter since the GH2, but normally hybrid cameras are not going to be my primary camera. They're not going to be the main camera. They're going to be a second or third camera. Normally, packing for me involves at least 2 to 3 cameras. I always got a film camera, and I've always got usually a digital stills camera that would normally either be a Leica, a Fuji, and have a hybrid. So normally I'd say have a EVA1 and S1H and a film camera. With about 2 days notice, I was about to go on a trip across 3 continents and 3 countries, and because I'd have to go through customs every time I landed, I gave myself a bit of a challenge. Instead of packing the way I normally do, I was going to roll with just this. So what I'd done was I'd gone on to Studious EMS, link in the description, and I built a little kit. S1MII 24 to 70, 70 to 200, CF Express cards, SD cards. And that's a couple of batteries, and that was basically my kit. The Lumix S1MII, and I'll have to say that the camera performed spectacularly. And the fact that I could go from full frame to Super 35, specifically when I was in the national park in Kenya, trying to get animals, I only had 2 lenses because again, the exercise was to pack light. Had the 24 to 70 and the 70 to 200. Internal RAW, it's a great feature to have. And what I can't stop talking about is the image stabilization. Panasonic has always been phenomenal with image stabilization, but this was outstanding. So my challenge here was to shoot a steam camp, a charity football tournament, and randomly, since man went on safari in Kenya, not a real safari, but went to the national park in Kenya, see if I could shoot animals from a moving vehicle with this. And I can say, as you can see from the sample footage, I was in a moving car. Again, it wasn't specifically to shoot, and was on holiday. And I said, you know what, yeah, it's a bit overkill to use this camera on holiday, but why not? So in a moving Land Rover, out the top, wild terrain, handheld, and you can see how the shots came out phenomenal. Chasing kids up and down, playing football, absolutely stand out. I'm gonna go back on something that I've always been adamant about. I've always said, if you rely on autofocus, you're lazy. Again, one of those features that I didn't think I needed that I ended up using. The autofocus was phenomenal, especially their little breakdancing logo in the autofocus. I used that a lot on the safari and for football, so that was a great feature to have. While I was on the shoot on the steam camp, there was a social media shooter there, and I felt bad for him. Sorry, Lorenzo. He had 2 cameras. He had a camera for stills, and he had a camera for video, and he had a camera built in a rig like this. Felt bad for him. Hopefully, I was able to do a good Samaritan job and introduce him to open gate. Showed him open gate on the S1MII and showed him how to actually just shoot open gate and reframe, recrop, so he didn't have to roll with 2 cameras, one like this and one like that. And that is a feature that the Lumix cameras have that I feel like everyone's missing out on. But let's talk about what I loved about it. A few things I loved. What I call the Lisa button, referring to my friend Lisa Rinsler. I've heard other cameras have had it, but it's the first time I'm seeing it on the Lumix. It goes from stills, video to S&Q. That was a great feature to have on this. The other thing I liked about this is the fact that this camera gave me the ability to use 2 separate cards, and now cards that were fast enough for internal RAW. The fact that this had internal ProRes RAW was amazing, yes, and I'm gonna hear the tears about ProRes RAW doesn't work in Resolve. Simple solution, Assimilate Scratch Play Pro will convert your ProRes RAW into cinema DNG files with all the metadata you need for DaVinci Resolve. Few things that it does that I did not really think I would need. The fact that I've got full frame S&Q in this actually came out or served really well. It's not something I've been pining for. I am a Super 35 guy. Outside of needing a taller sensor for anamorphic, I've never been someone who needed or thought I needed full frame slow-mo. A good friend of mine, Kai,
asked for the feature, and Panasonic listens. They delivered in this, obviously a bit too late for him because he bought an S5X, but I use that and I realized, right, you know what? It's not a bad feature to have. The other feature that this has that I've been very impressed about, especially in the field, is this thing, the shutter. I know other cameras have it, but for me it was a big one, that opens and closes when you turn it off, so it protects the sensor. I'm someone who's destroyed an OLPF before. This camera does not have one, but it was a great feature to have. While I didn't really test it, or specifically test it, I was impressed with the dynamic range. So Panasonic claims 15 stops on dynamic range on the camera, and I'm inclined to say it's not a lie. While I wasn't actually doing technical tests, I know what 14, 15 stops are. As someone who shoots on a Varicam, a Burano, and a Alexa 35, I could say decidedly that this camera is hitting 14 to 15 stops of dynamic range, which is impressive for a mirrorless camera. Secondly, there's a feature that Panasonic used to have. I hope they bring back an S1H Mark II or whatever they're going to call that camera. It's this. Right here is a BNC cable, goes into the flash sync port. It's the ability to get real LTC timecode into the camera. I've used this camera on things like Comedians in Cars, Getting Coffee, broadcast fights for Showtime. When you're shooting these multi-camera situations, timecode is essential. I do know that the S1 Mark II has Bluetooth timecode. My problem with that is that in these critical situations, I don't want to rely, and no one wants to rely on Bluetooth timecode. Also, something no one else might miss, but I did, was this here. When I was shooting through the viewfinder and shooting a lot of things blind, on the S1H, the fact that I can check what's going on right here was something that I missed on the S1 Mark II. It wouldn't be a Panasonic review without some boxing footage. So I took the camera to the gym, and here's a bit of boxing footage to keep in the tradition of all Panasonic reviews. Don't play. So, without rambling on too much, you've seen what the camera can do. You can download sample clips, and for the first time I was able to go shoot a bunch of stuff with one camera, not have to roll with two cameras, stills and all that. And this is with 2 days notice. There's a bunch of features I did not try, didn't even get to play with Lumix Lab, but the camera's been performed phenomenally. And if you're in the market for mirrorless and you're some guy who really only shoots hybrids or looking for one camera to do everything, I don't know why you wouldn't buy this camera. If I didn't have an S5X, I would have jumped on this immediately. Again, if I didn't have an S1H and an S5X, definitely be buying it. And the moment Panasonic give me a replacement for the S1H with timecode, I will be replacing my S1 Mark II. If you found this helpful, like, comment, subscribe, argue with me in the comments, download the footage, play with it. Again, Sean from Martini's Girls and Guns. A bit of a postscript here on this S1 Mark II video. So initially, obviously, when I shot this review or whatever, kind of really, well, not like a structured review, kind of run and gun, here's me using the camera for the first time on 2 days notice. There was still a beef between Blackmagic and Atomos or whatever, and ProRes RAW did not function in Resolve. Since then, they've updated it. I've tried it, and I have to say, yes, you can use ProRes RAW in Resolve natively, but in my experience, at least for my workflow, I still prefer going through a Simulate Scratch Plate Pro, converting ProRes RAW to the compressed DNG files and doing it that way. I find that I got way more flexibility with the raw files that way. So just adding kind of a postscript to the video, because you lot are probably watching this being like, yeah, what year is this from? What's man talking about? What's man talking about? ProRes RAW goes in Resolve. You don't have the same level of control. I haven't found it as efficient, so that's just my 2 cents. I still prefer, actually, I made this whole thing on my MacBook just to try out ProRes RAW, because that was the only computer that I had that I'd updated to Resolve 20. So in my experience, ProRes RAW does work in Resolve, but if you have Scratch Plate Pro, again, it's relatively cheap. I still prefer Scratch Play Pro because the controls that I have when I convert the ProRes RAW files from the S1 Mark II to DNG, it's more what I'm used to in working with RAW files. For some reason, at least at the moment, ProRes RAW is just not playing as well in Resolve as the DNG files. And that's my postscript. So when you watch this video, if you made it this far and you're like, my man said ProRes RAW is not working in Resolve. Yes, I know it works in version 20. I just don't think that if you want the same level of RAW controls, right now, they just aren't available.